Now, going by the outcome of that presidential election, Bola Ahmed Tinubu secured just 37% of the vote, but now he's got 100% of the government under his control, whilst the other parties that got a 60% share of the vote are not involved in government. That seems to offend not just some electoral reformists, but straightforward logic. Should there, by law, be a government of national unity, or possibly a rerun between the first two winning candidates to ensure that one of them gets at least 50%, which would give them a majority mandate? Well, to assess that perspective, help us to do that, I'm joined now in the studio by the PDP stalwart and former Director General of the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, Dr. Ladan Salihu. How nice to see you again.
Good to see you, Charles, and welcome back from your break.
Thank you very much indeed, and thank you for joining us. So after the tribunal ruling, case closed, say some in the ruling APC party, not quite, says Labour, not on your Nelly, says the main opposition, PDP, your party. What do you say?
Well, I will first of all say that I endorse the position of our presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, for respecting the rule of law, and for saying that he understands the outcome, even appreciates the outcome, but he does not believe in the judgment, and therefore he's heading to the Supreme Court. That shows you the character and quality that is on board with the candidate of our party, the PDP, respecting the rule of law, premising all that is said and done within the content and context of democratic norms and values. You upgrade the whole complaint scenario to the Supreme Court, and in doing so, we believe we will get justice. But then, let me make this point plain and clear. I had a premonition, 72 hours, 48 hours to the judgment. And I told myself, we're not going to get judgment per se. We will get a pronouncement. And let me borrow the lines from Frantz Fanon. He said, every spectator is either a coward or a traitor. And I'm sorry to say that the Nigerian judiciary is in the mix. And so what you see is what you get. Remember, in this country, we had a senator. Now, before the senator, just a few days to this judgment, Justice Mary Odili came out and made some pronouncements that were ridiculously sub judice. And nobody berated her. Nobody called her to even apologize. She went roughshod and came up with, a statement that was literally made the judgment a foregone conclusion. Before then, remember, a senator from my state, Senator Bulkachua, told Nigerians how, on the floor of the Nigerian Senate, for crying out loud, Charles, that he influenced his wife. He talked to his wife to influence outcomes of court judgments. And
his wife is a judge.
And his wife was a judge. Not only a judge at that, she was the president of the Court of Appeal. And no rebuke, no reprimand, no investigation, nothing. So when you put the two together and you are coming to the same Court of Appeal to have a judgment between the APC, the PDP, and the Labour Party, the two parties that you said in your introduction had about more than 60% of the vote, and the other party that had about 37%, the judges, it would appear that there were in the 5 judges, not one dissenting voice. And that gives me a cause for concern. If you are to put, and I'm not by any stretch of imagination ridiculing our judges, I have a lot of respect for the judiciary and for the judges and the the presiding judges. But one would have expected that at least there would be 1 or 2 dissenting voices. If that did not obtain, Charles, you would want to see a judgment that is carried out in a meticulous, mature, and plausible manner that is convincing enough. But what I saw in the judgment, I'm sorry to say I'm not a lawyer, was like all the 5 judges were in a hurry to impress someone.
Right. Well, let me just point out that Bulk Chiwa has clarified his statement, and Justice Odili has also clarified hers. But you've talked a lot about
yes.
judges. Do you think the PDP's lawyers put forward a credible case? Did they put forward enough evidence to support the party's contention that Bola Ahmed Tinubu did not win the presidential election? I'm not talking about visceral stuff. I'm talking about evidence and materials to support that claim.
Materials, evidence, instances, sightings, video recordings, clips, actual certified true copies of thousands of documents across the 774 local government, 36 states, across all the areas of complaints were submitted to the courts. And at the very beginning, Nigerians, the PDP especially, and the Labour also, I want to believe, asked for live television coverage of the proceedings. The courts refused, because it would have been clear to Nigerians that the amount of evidence that was put forward by our team was beyond all reasonable doubt, right. Irrevocable. So and therefore, I want to believe that clearly what we got was a pronouncement. It was not a judgment. But then, as a law-abiding party, we go with what was the outcome from the courts, and now we will go to the Supreme Court.
But on the basis of what you just said to us, what do you reckon is the legal basis? I'm not talking about the emotive, the reactionary basis, but the legal basis for going on appeal, beyond the fact that it is Atiku's constitutional right and beyond the sentiments and emotions that surround this case.
We don't agree with the judgment, and it is our own inalienable right. When we don't agree, we pursue the next line, the next course of action. Secondly, we don't necessarily want to lampoon the judiciary, but like I said at the beginning of this program, what obtained prior to the pronouncements, albeit there were retractions, or they tried to put a spin to say no, they didn't mean what they say. But the judiciary is itself on trial. We don't believe what obtained at the tribunal, at the Court of Appeal, was justice enough served in a manner that reflect the true process that was on ground. And we believe that the Supreme Court will acquit itself properly, looking at the facts and the figures and the instances, not like you said, the emotions or even the vituperations of politicians, but just on the substance of the law. I'm not a lawyer.
No, I understand that, but the judges will say, and some lawyers, senior lawyers have supported that the justices or the judges were simply interpreting the Electoral Act as it is. Do you believe that electoral reform, I mean, a lot of members of the PDP, many ordinary Nigerians and experts have been speaking evocatively about, as they see, as they see it, what they consider to be the diabolical events that they believe continue to strip away integrity in Nigerian elections and politics. And you clearly are one of those who thinks that way. Well, but are you one of those who thinks that electoral reform is urgently needed, and that if that reform takes place, it makes it less likely that what judges or whoever can stray from that thing and find justification?
Absolutely. I think we need reforms. We need reforms in a manner that will create not only a level playing field, but reforms that will ensure that every contestant is given that level playing field. And then the outcome of the elections, when and if they are challenged in any court of law, it will be seen to be transparent enough based on the rules of the game and the rules of the books. What happened in this presidential election and even in some gubernatorial election, we didn't have, if INEC knew that IREV was not an issue, they ought to have told Nigerians from day one, don't rely on IREV, don't call a press conference to tell the world that you are going to deliver a quintessential election based on best practices, based on the technology that you are deploying, only for you to come on the final analysis, as Macbeth will say, in the deepest consequence, to bring the roof down and to tell Nigerians, and even the courts endorsed that. IREV, the court said, was not a platform that is bound by law to justify the outcome of any election. Why spend billions upon billions of public money in a country where right now, as we are speaking, hunger is the norm, not even the electoral process?
That's a good point, but we'll have to wait and see how that goes. And sadly, I have to say that we're out of time, but I would love to have you back when we'll have more time. I think the first guest gobbled up 8 into your time period, so I do apologize for that. But Dr. Ladan Salihu, a delight to see you again. He is a PDP stalwart and former Director General of the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having me, Charles.
You're